What up, meatheads? It's Travis, American Butcher, and this is the Meat Block Podcast, the weekly podcast by butchers for everyone. What do I mean by butchers for everyone? Well, we are, butchers who produce this. No, it's not by butchers in the sense of that our sexuality. It's by butchers because David, myself, and Ryan all work in the meat fabricating industry in one capacity or the other. And for everyone, you don't have to be a butcher, or perhaps you're a cook or a hunter or just curious about the meat industry and you're just your everyday person who's not as rad as us. I'm joking. But we're trying to bridge that gap. And this episode of the Meat Block, I sent out a Ask Me Anything sticker on Instagram. And I got a lot of great questions. And we're going to be focusing on one of those questions mainly. And that main question we're going to be focusing on is, do you think the meat processing, or do you think meat processing should have secrets or be completely transparent? And that is a doozy. Before I answer that question of all questions, it is the question. It is a great question. I'm going to play our intro. Then I'll be back to answer some simpler questions, give you, some appetizers before the entree.
Good cutting enhances the quality of good meat. Poor cutting results in an inferior piece of meat, regardless of quality.
So some of these just little appetizer questions are as followed. Where are you a butcher? That's easy. The Pacific Northwest. I used to work in a place called Westminster Meats. That's where I got my start. Slaughter facility, which answers another question I got is do you guys kill or just cut meat? I kill. I don't currently. I haven't harvested or shot anything in the face in about 2 years. No, I think I did some custom lambs about a year and a half ago, maybe a year ago. In hindsight, that part of the industry is super appealing to me. It's super romanticized, and I loved it looking back. Then I set up, some custom lambs or something like a custom pig to be like, man, I should get back into that. And then I realized how much heat and just how much the humidity and just like the smells and all that stuff that like is so familiar that I just am not into anymore. It's like relapsing on a breakup. You miss it and you miss it and you want it, and then, you're lonely and you make that phone call and then in the middle of it and like, this isn't as fun as it was. And the humidity and the smells bring you back. You're just like over it. No, but much respect for people in it. And if I just wasn't so used to working in a refrigerated room, I'd probably like it. David currently works in that side of the industry, but he more manages it. So he oversees people doing their job and, sanitary measures. And David also the type of manager who could strap up and jump in when needed to, prove a point. I don't know. He's going to be on the show later, so we'll have him answer that then. But this original question is, where do you cut meat? And I said the Pacific Northwest, and then I started talking about Vermont and answering that other question. And then it's, time is a flat circle, so I'm bringing it back to the original question, bringing it back. Time is a flat circle, bringing it back. Then I started working in West Hollywood. I lived in the Miracle Mile. I also lived with my grandma Anita for a while. It was, I think, pretty scary living with my grandma. I talk about that in an episode, how I thought she was going to shoot me. Not because she didn't like me, but she would lock me out at the house if I wasn't home by like 10 o'clock and I'm in my 30s. And I'm just like, whoa, this is crazy. By in my 30s, I mean, I was 29 going into 30. That year I met my wife, and then we got our own place on the west side of LA. And if you live in LA, you know that the west side is far away from any other part of LA. It's on the extreme end of town. So when I was looking for work after leaving the place and left West Hollywood, or as I was in the process of leaving or wanting to leave, I, of course, found a place that was way more convenient to work, and that was in San Diego, commuting from West LA. After that, if you listen to the show, it's as much as we have different topics and things like that to talk about, I can't change my story in this industry about places I've worked and things like that. But I ended up in the Pacific Northwest, jumped around here for a little bit, did some things, consulting, built a shop, worked on a poultry unit, and now I currently manage a shop in the Pacific Northwest. And as specifics to where, that is non-applicable information. Bringing me on to the next question. What is a hanger steak, and why is it different from a flat iron? Well, a hanger steak is what separates the two body cavities, where you have your respiratory system, your lungs, and your heart, and then you have your diaphragm, and then underneath that you have all your soft tissues like your guts, your liver, your stomachs, and things like that. And then what expands and contracts the diaphragm, and one is breathing, but there's a muscle that spreads both tubes that your stomach goes down into, or your esophagus. And that muscle that keeps the diaphragm membrane in place, because the diaphragm is the skirt steak. It's the outside skirt steak because it's outside of the carcass, essentially. Like if it's a half beef, then the inside skirt is you have to seam it out. People may tell you differently on that. Nope, they're wrong. They're dumb. But the muscle that connects those two skirt steaks and brings it with a hole in the middle for the stomach, that is a hanger steak. There's only one of those per carcass, but animals being asymmetrical, you can seam it out. But animals also being bisymmetrical in the sense of favoring one leg or one arm, or right-handed and left-handed, there is a thicker and a wiener side to it. But you could certainly seam out that steak, make it into two, then I would butterfly those, season them, and whatnot. And then how is that different from a flat iron? Well, to start with, they're completely different muscles. The flat iron comes from the top blade on the forequarter. It is the top blade subprimal. You seam out, remove what people would, called scalped primals, or remove the excess stew meats. And then you denude your top blade and then seam out that piece of gristle, and you end up with 2 flat irons per half, so 4 per carcass. And how is that different? Is the answer is completely fucking. It's like comparing apples to a fruit no one's ever heard of. Because the top blade comes from the forequarter, and the hanger steak comes from the hindquarter. They're both completely different utilized muscles, where a hanging tender, butcher's tender, it's a working muscle, but it's also not, in the sense that it doesn't bear any weight. So it's also very tender once you get all of the membranes off of it. And then the flat iron, once you remove that big piece of gristle and then cut it on sear it and then cut it on a bias would also be very delicious as well. But it is also, a lot leaner besides the spider fat on the top or the inside of the seams. But all mussels are essentially different, except for like foreshank and hindshank, I imagine. In a blind taste test, if you were to just cook them real quick on a grill, I'd tell you both are terrible. This next question is, I was wondering, bro. I guess it'd be like, I was wondering, bro, if, filleting fish counts as being a butcher. Now, just simply filleting a fish. Filleting a fish. No. You would be someone who knows how to fillet a fish. You would be a fish filleter. It counts as butchering, but does it count as being a butcher? In the past, I've said, the semantic games and all that are contrived, and what's a meat cutter versus a butcher and a slaughterman and journeyman and apprentice and all these titles that we give each other. And if just do what makes you happy and focus internally on what you could do. But if you were to tell me, hey man, I'm a butcher, I'd be like, oh man, dude, that's great. What's your favorite sausage to make? What's your favorite, I'm having difficulty breaking on a rail and transferring some skills onto the block. What would you recommend? And be like, correction. I am a butcher who only fillets fish. I'd be like, oh, okay. Huh. Now, in that sense, I have never worked with fish. I fish weekly, though. Catch crab, and I live on the Puget Sound. I literally live on the waters of the Puget Sound. I don't catch as many fish as you would think, though. Maybe it's like something's changing out there. Cutthroat used to run a lot better several years ago, they would say, and winter's been funny. And the currents are changing, tides are changing. One day this house will be gone and swallowed by the water. That's neither here nor there. Regardless of that, no matter how many fish I catch, me simply knowing how to fillet them doesn't make me a fishmonger. I can't tell you the different parts of the fish. I'm sure I could look it up. I'm sure I could watch some videos and bullshit my way through it. But never working in that side of the industry, or working in the sense where I have to sell it, or, working with different species and things like that, I wouldn't consider myself a fishmonger. Brian Mayer will tell you that a butcher will also know how to be a fishmonger. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, if it's monger or some other word that's close to that. It's one of those things where people say it very fast, where I just kind of like, and I've never had to think about it before. But that being said, one, I don't think you have to know how to fillet a fish to be a butcher. I think every single butcher could simply fillet a fish. But if you were to tell me that you only know how to fillet a fish and you're a butcher, I'd say, granted, be happy with who you are and what you want to call yourself. But if you are applying for a job with me and you brought that skill set with the term butcher on your resume, I would say thank you, be very polite, and suggest, and probably keep looking for someone to fill the position I needed, and gear you in the way to use wording on your resume to reflect your skills. Sure, you're very good at butchering a fish. Favorite part of butchery? That is a question that was sent to me. What is my favorite part of butchery? I don't know. I get migraines, so like whenever I'm working and I don't have a headache, it's pretty awesome. Whenever my body doesn't hurt, or I'm in the groove and I'm flowing and I don't notice any aches or pains. And it sounds like I'm self-glorifying right now, but truly, my favorite part is just in that groove. My boss hasn't bugged me in like a day, because like I work at a place where people get in the habit of like, as soon as you're in a nice flow, throwing a wrench in it, which is fine. It's what happens when you work for a wholesaler. It's like, oh, this chef needs this, or this customer needs this, and they need it tomorrow. It's the nature of the industry. Completely fucks up my flow. So when I'm bobbing and weaving and grooving, and my idiosyncrasies kick in, and I'm flowing, everything's running smoothly. That is my favorite part of butchery. You know, it used to be learning something new, and then it used to be just breaking beef, and then for a long time, when I worked slaughter, it was gutting and splitting. All those have evolved over the years, and none of those are remotely close to being climately comfortable. You know, not too many layers on. It's still cold. You're not too hot. You're not too cold. You're working at the right pace to get everything done, and your crew is responding to it. That's my favorite part. So this next question, what profitable products have you been able to create with dry age trim and bones? First off, them bones, if they're air exposed, I would say nothing. I'd say pitch them. There's really nothing you could do, because let's say a lot of shops will, and by a lot of shops, I mean USDA shops, where you have a USDA inspector, say you're aging a whole carcass and you start getting fuzz on it, they're going to want you to trim that fuzz off, or that age off, anything that's not that dry bark, before you cut into it. What that means is, how are you going to cut something off before you cut into it? That means every pass of your knife will be sanitized and wiped before, and you cut a strip of age off or fuzzy, sanitize and clean your knife. Cut a strip, sanitize and clean your knife. So that being said, you can't really do that to the bones, and the bones that are exposed in that environment are going to have a lot of those things, and you're going to have little fuzzies down the spine and whatnot, and it's going to be real funky. So I'll just pitch those bones. Inner bones, like ones that are mostly going to be intermuscular bones, you know, parts of the H bone, femurs, joints, things like that. You could just treat as regular bones. They're going to really not have that gnarly, cooler-like taste. And that's the big thing, is the outside bones, those porous spines, are going to absorb like baking soda, all the nasty shit in your cooler. Now that lean trim, what can you do with that? What can you do with that trim? Well, one thing you could do with it is grind it and sell it as dry age trim. Now, if you work in a USDA shop, as far as labeling and everything like that, if you are making the claim that it is dry age, that 100% of that trim needs to be dry age trim. Now, if you are working in a retail-like establishment, you are more than welcome. I don't know if it's true or not, but places I have worked, you could do dry aged flavored trim, where 10%, which we would do, and I said it with the confidence as if this is correct or not, but this is just speaking from experience. 10% of that trim was made from dry age product. And the idea is that there was so much flavor in that dry ageness that it would carry throughout. So what would you do with dry aged trim and bones? You know, pitch your outside bones, treat your inside bones just as any other bones, and then your trim, grind it, and sell it as a premium grind product, as an added value. And just remember, keep all your lots and grind records up to date. And yeah, hope that answers that question. When I posted this Ask Me Anything sticker, it was with a picture of, or a video first, with me and my son fishing in the back here at my house. And someone asked, "Who is that with you?" And that person is my son, Harrison. He's pretty great. Just turned 3. Another person asked, did we catch anything? No. Several reasons. Most of the time I was fishing, he was trying to steal my pole. I was fishing with a Point Defiant lure. And PT Defiant is, a lure made for salmon and cutthroat. Slays them out here. Works very good. But I didn't want Harrison to use it because PT Defiant stopped making lures like 40 years ago. And right now you can only get them on eBay for $50 each. And we already lost one in the back. And I only have 3 of them. So I and they slay the cutthroat. So I'm a little protected of them. Then by the time I got him a pole, which just consisted of a banana weight on it and me casting it out, and there was no hook for him to just practice reeling. And he did that a couple of times. Then he lost interest and we moved on to something else. So no, we did not catch anything. Another question I got asked is, what were we doing today? Which was the day after that picture was taken. And well, today we went to the Woodland Park Zoo in Seattle. Some orangutans, some amazing fauna. Which ones? Yeah, animals. We saw some amazing animals. I thought there was going to be elephants. There wasn't. Usually zoos randomly have a peacock, and that's what my son wanted to see. And there wasn't that as well. So, but the animals he did love was the river otters, which are some of my favorite because they're the ones moving. The African exhibit, those animals were mostly sleeping and I think trying to stay warm, because keep in mind, it is March in Seattle, and these animals are used to the wild plains of Africa. Then we attended a bird show, which I loved. They had a spectacle owl from South America, the first spectacle owl to be born in captivity. And then they had a just run-of-the-mill turkey vulture, which was 32 years old, which is crazy for how, I didn't think birds got that old, or let alone turkey vultures. Then I remember that like parrots and macaws and things like that, they live decades and decades to the point where they're like willed to people, where someone's like, I got this fancy bird that's loud as fuck. Now you inherited a problem. Sweet. But the cool thing about the turkey vultures with their bright red head and things like that is they could smell a rotting carcass for up to a mile. And say that animal dies from disease, they're almost like rejuvenators and recyclers in the sense where their stomach acid could kill the disease. So if they eat something that's condemned and dying and whatnot, that it is given back to the earth, renewed through the process of them digesting it. So I thought that was super interesting. David, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
You sound terrible.
Yeah, I'm not feeling too hot.
Depression?
I think partially.
Well,
also, I haven't had heat in my house for the last 3 days.
Why?
Well, my furnace isn't working, and all of my firewood got wet this week because my tarp blew off and it was raining like sideways. And Apparently, I hadn't thought that through.
Ugh, you need to go get some Duraflames, buddy.
Yeah.
Or kerosene heater. Like
Well,
a hobo.
Yeah. Or just like a 55-gallon drum fire in the living room. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I gotta ask you real quick, just this one question.
Yeah.
On wax. Not that one. Where is it? Where? Oh. Do you think meat processors should have secrets or be completely transparent? That is the question we're focusing on right now, David.
Well, I mean, I feel like answering that question, I feel like I can't truthfully answer that question. Of course, there has to be secrets. I mean, but what kind of secrets? Like secret recipes, or we secretly knock our cattle with a sledgehammer in a basement?
Yeah. Well, obviously, secret recipes. But
yeah,
all right. So let's zoom in. All right. Should the term spices be appropriate enough for a label, knowing what the major allergens are? But there are some people who may be allergic to thyme or, another dry spice. But without giving
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. I used to work at a Sicilian restaurant, right? And we would have this lady that came in all the time that said that she was severely allergic to flour, onions, garlic, dairy, and wheat.
Mm-hmm.
At a fucking Sicilian restaurant.
Really?
And I just feel like if you have an obscure allergy, then you just have to do your due diligence. And I don't think that you should have to put all of your ingredients in descending by volume order on your label. I think that spices should be enough and herbs should be enough, as long as people don't take advantage of that and put like fucking MSG in there.
Yeah, but we're not reverting in this. We're going to stick with our current guidelines as far as that. Now, what about secrets in, the saying that I've heard you say probably a couple hundred times, 1,000 times maybe, because I'm surprised you haven't said it twice on this show already, is, everyone wants to know how the sausage is made. Or something to that effect. I think I've heard you say it once.
What's that?
That everyone wants to know how the sausage is made, but yet doesn't want to see the animal get killed.
Oh yeah, that's very true.
So how do you feel about transparency in the sense of, is that squeaking picking up?
Yeah.
So fucking annoying.
That's okay though. I mean,
Melissa
this is
has
real life product.
Yeah, Melissa, Max. Melissa has the flu and is upstairs, and both dogs are downstairs with me. And now
good.
Milo wants attention, and Max he's gonna start chewing that toy. I don't see him; I hear him. I just took them out, and they're both wet because we live in Washington. Anyway, so how about so secrets as far as like, what if the general public wanted to go to your plant?
It can't be transparent. It can't be because I don't believe that the general citizen is aware enough to understand the reality of the situation. And so I think, 9 out of 10 people would probably be outraged or like feel emotionally about the process. And it's not that there isn't a lot to be thankful for during harvest or slaughter or whatever you kill.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't think it's another thing that needs to be dressed up in a dramatic story. Like how a lot of food and other products are sold now is by selling the story.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that we need to romanticize the slaughter process. It's just you've got like a group of professionals that try really hard to do this thing in accordance with a sometimes unreasonably strict set of rules set forth by the government. And, these pictures of like slaughterhouses with all this violence and like these firsthand accounts of animals being abused. I don't know, maybe in the custom exempt world, but
well, I always say
the USDA is just so fucking strict. I don't know. I don't think that sort of transparency is going to help anyone.
Well, I think that if you get footage of an animal throwing, we've said it before, you slow it down, turn it in black and white, then it would be taken out of contents. And so we're talking about inviting the general public to watch the process. But I think some people want even like a video feed or something like. I have no idea. This is just.
I'm happy. I'm happy to host people if they want to come by anytime.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let them back up the knocker and hold the gun.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it reminds me of this meme, and it's a little crass. So if you aren't a fan of the crassness, then this is probably your first episode. And it's a hard cut meme of like crispy bacon, and then a pig upside down with a gnarly axe wound of a stick in its neck, just bleeding on a kill floor where there's blood everywhere and stuff like that. And it says, if you eat bacon, you should look at this. You need to see this.
Yeah, man.
But the first comment on that meme was someone saying, I've seen a baby get born and I still eat pussy.
There you go.
How do you feel about babies being born? No. How do you feel? Yeah, that we live in a society that is so far removed of the slaughter process and things like that. And I don't know. I view it that I would never want to give anyone ammo who is against the industry to try to dictate their agenda. It's my point.
Yeah. Man, I just recently, that reminds me of an ad that I saw with this beardo with a bunch of tattoos and shits holding up this lamb that looks like it's had the shit kicked out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like just bloody around the eyes and the mouth, and it's got like, 10% of its pelt still on it and like just chunks, and it just looks like it got drugged behind a truck for an hour on the highway.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, this is what the rest of your sheepskin rug looks like. And I'm just like, what? Like, where did that guy get that lamb from?
Well, he abused it for the ad, for the PETA ad.
Shit, yeah, they did. I mean, that's not what happens in slaughterhouses, for Christ's sakes.
But I've also seen
the hell out of the product.
Yes. And I've also seen memes or things that, or not even memes, even within quote unquote professionals of the industry, where you see people like, where I've posted something where I shot an animal, which I don't post anymore because I don't care for the shock value or the criticism that I'm about to talk about. I posted a video of me shooting some pigs in the head. They were done and killed perfectly. I found myself arguing with other people in the industry about sensibility. And I think if we...
Did you really?
Yeah. That like... It's...
No shit.
They're like...
keep up on that.
Yeah. And it was over like 2 years ago, and I got pissed. And like...
I remember the post.
Yeah. And like people talking about shooting animals in front of each other and anthropomorphizing and putting their feelings onto the animals is the conclusion that I came from. And I think you came from at the time. And I feel the outrage of like, so let's say we have a transparent industry. All right. And I kill 10 sheep all in front of each other. A lot of people are going to be upset. Like, how could you do that? That last one had to watch all 9 of his friends die, and then he got to die. Not understanding what conscious and self-awareness is. That last sheep will
totally
look around and see all of his friends laying down and probably think it's time to lay down and then lay down. Not saying that animals aren't empathetic. Some animals, when their partner dies, starve themselves until they also die. Hawks are like that. Sure. But is that more empathy, or the fact that their partner in their life has changed so dramatically that they don't know how to exist without that other person, without like a feeling behind it? It's just like they are,
it's a certain type of mentality,
Yeah. Like
absolutely.
It takes 2 feet to walk, and all of a sudden you lose a foot and you don't know how to walk anymore. You may starve to death.
Sure. And I argue that anybody that gets upset about knocking lambs in front of one another ought to stick a hog in front of another hog sometime and see how that goes, because that hog's going to try to eat its friend that just got stuck.
Yeah. And then some people, like, I brought up that argument or talking point, I guess, to people, and then they even be like, that's outrageous, that's sick, how do you do blah, 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 to even let that get to that point. And then like another thing with like total transparency is I think that animals need to be raised properly, held and treated well, and need to die humanely. Does that mean with dignity? I don't know what that means. What does, like Joe Rogan one time posted a silhouette picture of himself sitting on an elk that he just killed, and the caption was, I was so excited after shooting this that I just had to jerk off. And is him sitting on that elk carcass with his dick in hand, which is implied. I doubt he did that and had someone go take that picture of him silhouetted. That'd be a very awkward ask.
Yeah.
Is that, if he did, is that disrespectful to the animal, not changing the animal's life or the process? Or did it take away its dignity? Like, one thing that with total transparency in this industry the whole point of this is that people are going to be exposed to gallows humor, which is fucked up in our industry. But it's also like, I could get down with it. I could relate. I've seen people, bite off fetal cow heads and then spit them in the air. But,
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on all that, David? Is it disrespectful? No, just like the whole rant I went on. Does it take away the animal's dignity? Did the animal even have dignity? Do you bite off cows' heads? Am I talking about you?
Well, no, I don't bite off cows' heads, but there is like a morning kind of routine where the first beat that gets stuck, everybody on the crew has a good glug of the hot blood that comes out of it, you know?
Yeah, and rubs it obviously on the naked boy who is in the room.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's how you know it's going to be a good harvest.
Everyone has dignity in that situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like the Mayans, the people being sacrificed, begged for it.
Yeah. You know, I don't know. I think that this job is really, really hard and can be stressful. And I think that if you can bring humor to it in a way that is kind of esoteric to your peers, then I think it's okay. You know, as long as you're not like harming other people or like being threatening or making other people uncomfortable, like or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you got to be respectful for. Yeah, where it's like this. I believe in jokes at work. I also believe in dick jokes. Do I believe in dick jokes at work? No.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And you know, there's a. I mean, I hope that everybody that works on a slaughter floor has had the pleasure of working with a really good, cohesive crew that, you know, works together well and respects one another, and is, you know, some good competition going, like some good rivalries, things like that. And you know what happens as far as humor goes in those situations, they kind of stay there and they stay on the floor, and then they don't leave that place.
Yeah.
But I think that, you know, again, talking about transparency, I think that if you take that out of context, it can really be gnarly, and it's easy to anthropomorphize animals. There's no doubt. I mean, fuck, I'm guilty of it. I've put like a scarf on a lamb before or something.
Yeah. Well, I think it reminds me of my dogs are fighting in the background. Stop it. You guys are so loud. Right before this recording, I had to build like a 300-piece Lego set for Harrison that I'm sure won't make it through the night.
Nice. What was it?
It was a pizza van.
A pizza van?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty slick. The sides look... Milo! That didn't mean come here, both of you. It just meant stop. So I posted a video of myself cutting pork chops with a blindfold on once. And someone said, show some respect to the animal. And
oh, good. Yeah.
And it got me thinking of like, at what point do we, I don't know, I can't say it without sounding callous, but it's like, where do you draw the line of quote unquote respect for the animal when it's like, do I need to show I should really take the blindfold off so I could make sure I cut well and nothing's wasted when showing respect to an animal is ensuring that, you know, it didn't die in vain, therefore utilizing every part of it, which means every part of it is like the leather and the byproduct, where it's like, you know, the glue that holds your iPhone is made from hooves. You know, when you check your phone on a toilet, do you need to show respect for the animals that went into that? When you're, you know, sitting on, or say you swipe right and you have a hot date and it goes well, and then you end up like, you know, making fuck on your leather couch. Is it disrespectful for the animal or animals that were skinned to provide the leather for that couch?
Yeah, man. I don't know. I mean, what would people prefer? Like robots? Because robots will treat each and every loin exactly the same. Mm-hmm. And cut it beautifully. I mean, jeez. I mean, you're not going to be a dumbass on the clock and like just fuck up a bunch of it. Man, I got to stop swearing.
Why?
And just mess up a bunch of cuts.
Fart balls.
Yeah. You're not going to mess around on the clock and waste product. If you're able to have a little bit of fun, I think that's okay.
Yeah. And then
I don't necessarily think that you should take videos of you humping chicken carcasses or whatever weird thing. But that's, I don't know.
Well,
I just don't like people acting like Jeremy's anyways.
Well, yeah, and that's something that Jeremy would do, and something I think I've seen Jeremy do. Or put a chicken head on his finger, because you could put your finger through the back of its neck, and then it comes out so your finger's coming out of the open mouth.
Yeah.
And then Jeremy would be like, check it out. It's a cock ring. Get it? Because it's a chicken.
Yeah, that's a Jeremy. That's a Jeremy move.
And I'm just against that in the sense that it's hack. And it's just I want to, I would actually 50 chance I would laugh at something like that in the moment. Now, if it was because of it was actually funny or just awkward laugh, I was just haha. I don't know. But going along that same vein is I want to be against that, but it's with this, and I am, but is it, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I guess like what you're trying to say. It's it's disrespectful more, I think, to the work environment. That it's just this is dumb.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally.
Now, talking on the vein of transparency, because when I got asked this question, I started thinking what does transparency mean? So as far as 100% naturally raised beef, should we talked about ingredients and using the term spices. What about the terms in raising animals and the vagueness that companies intentionally use to use phrases that would lead the consumer to think it's a more moral purchase? It is the one place where I, as a libertarian, I sadly say that there should be oversight on, because it's proven that the industry can't regulate itself.
Yeah, no, it cannot. It absolutely can't. Butchers are slick. There's no doubt about that.
Mm-hmm.
Master marketers. I don't know. I guess sometimes I forget what it was like, but there was a time when I was just getting turned on to eating
women
a little better, and I would buy anything with a green label,
Mm-hmm.
anything that said natural or whatever, and I didn't know what any of it meant. It was just take my dollars, please.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Hi.
I think it's kind of
where's your what? Your pizza delivery? It's still in bed upstairs. Did you leave the door open for the dogs to bug mom? Yeah. Cool. That was a yes. All right. Well, continue, and we'll just try to make the best of this. I have a feeling he's hanging out down here.
I think it's sleazy and it's cheap, but I think that people also need to be smart enough to know that that's like any industry, and that's just marketing.
Yeah. Where intentionally vague. Well, I think because I'm just playing devil's advocate now, David.
Sure.
Where intentional vagueness sells a product because it leaves the imagination to fill in the gaps.
No, it's genius. I mean, it's brilliant.
And the reason I'm saying that with intentional vagueness, I think every person who has mastered the art of a resume knows intentional vagueness.
Yeah.
where we've talked about it before when we've helped each other with such things.
Yeah, I mean, my resume is amazing.
Mm-hmm. I need to update mine.
Yeah?
Yeah, just it's good to have an updated version.
Of course it is. Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of which, if anyone wants to work with me, send me your resume.
What is that? A pizza.
I will do it.
All right.
It's an excavator.
You got an excavator?
Yeah.
You don't need to touch the microphone, just talking to it.
But I'm an excavator.
You want to? Oh, the microphone looks like an excavator?
Yeah.
What's your name?
Excavator. Excavator. I'm going to dig a hole down there.
Okay.
Right down there.
Why do you sound so hoarse?
Because
All right, here. Say your name.
it's a Stockstill.
Okay.
But I lose the router.
Well, let me...
My headphones.
You need headphones?
Yeah.
Are you also sick?
But I want headphones.
Okay. Go. Here. Here are some little headphones.
No, I don't want it.
She doesn't want the earbuds. All right, David. Continue with your plug.
No.
Uh-oh. What's wrong? Do you want to sit on Dad's lap? You want to continue talking in the microphone?
Yeah, my earbuds.
And you want to have earplugs in? All right, get on Dad's lap.
Well, maybe it's time for a Q&A with Harrison.
Okay. Here, come here. Do you have any questions?
But, hey.
I've got a question for Harrison.
Okay.
Is it an X-rater?
I'm going to have to repeat it to him because he does not, he's complaining he doesn't have headphones.
That's okay. Ask him what his favorite food is.
What is your favorite food?
This is not a Happy Meal food.
Don't say that. What's your real favorite food?
Jingle bell food.
Jingle bell food?
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
No, I want to dig. I want to dig on my excavator.
Okay.
What's this?
It's a boom arm for a microphone. It's not an excavator.
What's this?
This is the same boom arm. All right. What other question do you have, David, now that we know my son eats Happy Meals?
Okay. Let's see. What's his favorite animal?
All right, Harold. Harrison, stop touching. What's your favorite animal?
Put on the headphones.
What's your favorite animal?
I want that.
Here, could you say your favorite animal in here?
Yeah. A pig.
A pig.
And
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
on this one. On these. Why down this? What you know?
What's your favorite color, Harrison?
Why put that habit on?
Why is the iPad up there? Because that's how I'm communicating with David. What's your favorite color?
Pig.
Pig.
Yeah. Pig. But I'm not here saying.
All right, David. He now has the headphones on.
Good. Hi, Harrison.
Say hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Who's that?
That's David.
What's he doing?
He's talking to you.
Harrison, have you guys gone fishing recently?
Yeah. What is this?
The microphone. What's David saying? I can't hear him. I'm telling you to worship Satan.
A pig.
Oh. All right.
Why he's in house?
Where is he?
In house. He's in house.
He's at his house, yeah.
Well,
In California.
I can go next time.
You're going to go to his house next time?
Yeah.
You've met David. He's been here.
Well,
We've known David since before you were born.
That's true.
When you were in Mama's tummy.
That's
How old are
true.
you?
sweet.
She worked until the day she
Can you
gave
say
birth.
bye-bye?
Bye.
Bye, Harrison.
Done.
Done. All right, go play with your toys.
No, I'm the microphone again.
All right, David. I don't think this is going to get any better.
I
All right.
it.
That was fun.
All right. Hey, what David was trying to say is he's hiring. Hit him up at a farm butcher on Instagram. And from my understanding, it is a well-paying job with amazing benefits, and you get to work with the one and only David.
A zoo.
All of that is true.
Hey, what?
We go a zoo day.
A what?
A zoo.
A two?
A zoo. Animal zoo.
Oh, you went to the zoo. Oh.
All right, I'll see you guys later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.